When Dr. Camille Vance, a brilliant African-American forensic psychologist, is summoned to Seoul, she believes she is there to profile a dangerous Korean crime lord. Kwon Tae-jun is powerful, feared, and untouchable, a man accused of ruling the underworld from behind the polished glass walls of his legitimate empire. But the deeper Camille studies him, the more the official story begins to fracture. Tae-jun is not careless. He is not unstable. He is not the simple monster described in government files. He is controlled, haunted, and bound by a brutal code that may be the only thing standing between Seoul and something far worse. Now Camille must decide whether to expose him, protect him, or admit the most dangerous truth of all. The man she was hired to condemn may be the only one telling her the truth. Seoul was drowning in rain when Dr. Camille Vance arrived. The city rose around her in silver towers and black glass, headlights smearing across wet pavement as her government-issued sedan moved through Gangnam traffic. The skyline looked too clean from a distance, all sharp lines and glittering windows, but at street level the truth leaked through the seams, steam curling from subway vents, alleyways cut between luxury boutiques, delivery scooters slicing past black sedans, umbrellas moving like dark flowers under neon signs. Camille sat in the back seat wearing a tailored charcoal coat over a black sheath dress, her leather briefcase resting against her knees, the confidential case file open in her lap. Rain tapped against the window with the soft insistence of fingers on glass. Across the first page was a single name, Kwon Tae-jun. Below it, suspected organized crime leader, suspected homicide conspirator, suspected extortion coordinator, suspected political fixer, suspected controller of port access, private security firms, nightlife networks, procurement contracts, and multiple Seoul-based political intermediaries. Suspected. Camille's eyes narrowed at the repetition. In her experience, that many suspicions without a conviction meant one of two things. Either the man was a ghost, or the people chasing him were not telling the whole truth. Across from her, Special Prosecutor Han Min-kyu watched her over the rim of his glasses. He was in his early 50s, compact, polished, and too still. His navy suit had the discreet precision of government money dressed as modesty. Beside him sat Deputy Director Rachel Kim from the International Task Force, a Korean-American woman with a controlled face, a tight bun, and the exhausted eyes of someone who had spent too many years translating between governments that did not trust one another. Rachel cleared her throat. "You've gone quiet." Camille did not look up. "I'm reading." "You've read that page 3 times." "I have." Han's English was careful, accented but fluent. "Is something wrong with the file?" Camille turned another page slowly. Files don't usually have things wrong with them by accident. Rachel's eyes flicked toward Han before returning to Camille. "Dr. Vance." Camille closed the folder with one hand and finally looked at them. Her face was calm, rich brown skin softly lit by the passing city, eyes sharp beneath arched brows. She had spent 23 years in courtrooms, correctional facilities, interrogation observation rooms, and psychiatric units where violence wore every kind of face. She knew what discomfort looked like when it dressed itself as professionalism. "I was asked to provide an independent forensic behavioral profile," she said. "Independent means I observe, interview, review collateral data, and write what the evidence supports. It does not mean I decorate a conclusion someone already wrote." Han smiled without warmth. "No one is asking you to decorate anything." "Then stop framing him for me before I meet him." Rachel's mouth twitched. Not quite a smile, not quite alarm. Han leaned back. "Kwon Tae-jun is the most dangerous organized crime figure in South Korea." "Alleged," Camille said. "He controls half the city's underworld." "Allegedly. He has ordered men killed." "Charged?" Han's jaw tightened. "No." "Convicted?" "No." "Then allegedly." The sedan filled with rain sound and silence. Rachel looked out at the slick road ahead. "This is why we needed you." Camille's gaze moved back to the file. "No. You needed someone foreign enough not to be accused of local bias, experienced enough to sound authoritative, and black enough to look good in a press conference about international cooperation." Rachel inhaled sharply. Han blinked once. Camille's voice stayed even. "I don't mind being useful. I do mind being used." Rachel recovered first. Fair. Han did not. The sedan turned toward a private tower overlooking the Han River. Security waited beneath a wide black awning, men in dark suits, still as statues, rain running off their shoulders. None of them reached for weapons. None of them needed to. Their attention moved over the arriving car as if every raindrop had been assigned a threat rating. Camille watched them through the glass. His men? She asked. Han nodded. Kwon Security Group, legitimate private security company. Of course, Rachel said. They'll search us. I assumed. And they'll record the meeting. Camille opened her briefcase and removed a slim black notebook, a fountain pen, and a small digital recorder of her own. So will I. Han's expression sharpened. That may not be permitted. Camille met his eyes. Then the interview may not occur. The sedan stopped. For 3 seconds, no one moved. Then Rachel gave the smallest nod, the kind women in powerful rooms gave one another when they knew a boundary had just been established and would cost something later. The door opened. Rain breathed into the car. Camille stepped out beneath the awning, heels touching wet black stone. She was 51 years old, tall, poised, and elegant in a way that had nothing to do with softness. Her hair was swept into a low, neat twist. Pearl studs glowed at her ears. Her makeup was precise, muted, professional. She carried herself like a woman who had been underestimated by defendants, judges, attorneys, wardens, detectives, and violent men, and had survived all of them. The lobby was silent marble, warm amber light, and money old enough to stop apologizing for itself. A young man in a black suit approached with a respectful bow. Dr. Vance. His English was smoother than Han's, almost accentless. Camille studied him quickly. Early 30s, straight posture, no visible weapon. Left hand relaxed, right hand less so. Former military, perhaps. Loyal, not merely employed. And you are? She asked. Seo Jin-woo, personal aide to Chairman Kwon. Does Chairman Kwon always send an aide with a resting heart rate under 60 to greet visitors? Jin-woo's face did not change, but his eyes warmed by a degree. Only the important ones. Camille glanced toward Rachel. At least someone here knows how to flatter properly. Rachel almost smiled. Han did not. The search was thorough, but respectful. Camille surrendered her phone, kept her notebook, recorder, and pen after a brief negotiation conducted mostly through silence. Han objected twice. Jin-woo listened, then allowed it anyway. Interesting, Camille thought. Either Tae-jun wanted transparency, or he wanted her to believe he did. They were taken to a private elevator with no buttons visible. The doors closed, sealing them inside mirrored steel and amber light. Camille watched the numbers rise. 42, 43, 44. Rachel shifted beside her. Han remained still. Camille asked, Has he agreed to multiple sessions? Rachel said, He agreed to one. Han added, We intend to secure more. Camille looked at him. You intend? He is under pressure. From you? From reality. Camille let the answer sit between them, unadmired. The elevator chimed. The doors opened into a private office wrapped in glass. Seoul glittered beyond the windows, cold and endless, the Han River cutting through the city like a blade dipped in ink. The room itself was vast, but not ostentatious. Black walnut floors, low shelves, abstract ink paintings, a single antique celadon vase on a pedestal, and a long desk positioned not as a throne, but as a boundary. At the far side of the room stood Kwon Tae-jun. He was taller than she expected, broad-shouldered, dressed in a black suit with no tie, white shirt open at the throat. His hair was dark with silver at the temples, brushed back with understated precision. He had the stillness of a man who never rushed because others had learned to wait. His face was handsome in a severe way, strong cheekbones, controlled mouth, dark eyes that gave away nothing they did not choose to release. He did not smile. He did not ask why she had come. He only studied her with dark, steady eyes and said, Dr. Vance, I wondered how long it would take them to bring someone like you. Camille closed the file slowly against her palm. Someone like me? His gaze dropped briefly to the folder, then returned to her face. Someone they believe can turn a man into a diagnosis. The room stilled. Camille felt, with the sharp instinct that had built her career, that the interview had already begun, and somehow he had asked the first question. She set her briefcase on the conference table, not the desk, and removed her recorder. "Do you object to being recorded?" "No." Han stepped forward. "Chairman Kwon, this interview is—" Tae-jun lifted one hand. Han stopped speaking. Camille noticed it. So did Rachel. Tae-jun's eyes remained on Camille. "Do you object to my recording?" "No," Camille said, "as long as I receive an unedited copy." "You do not trust me?" "I don't know you." "That was not my question. It was my answer." For the first time, something almost like amusement touched his face. Not a smile, less generous, more dangerous. He gestured toward the chairs near the window. "Then we begin honestly." Camille sat opposite him with the city behind her, and the room reflected faintly in the glass. Han and Rachel remained near the wall. Jin-woo took a position by the door. Tae-jun sat with the unhurried grace of a man accustomed to scrutiny and immune to performance anxiety. His hands rested on the arms of the chair, no rings except a plain dark band on his right hand, no watch, which surprised her. Men like him usually wore time like a weapon. Camille clicked on the recorder. "This is Dr. Camille Vance, independent forensic psychologist. First structured interview with Kwon Tae-jun, Seoul, Republic of Korea. Present are Special Prosecutor Han Min-kyu, Deputy Director Rachel Kim, Mr. Seo Jin-woo, and security personnel outside the room. Chairman Kwon has consented to audio recording." Tae-jun watched her. "You make it sound very clean." "Procedure often does." "And underneath?" Tae-jun asked. "Underneath is usually where people bleed." Rachel shifted again. Han looked annoyed. Tae-jun's eyes sharpened slightly, as if she had placed the first real piece on the board. Camille opened the file. "You are aware of the allegations against you." "I am aware of many stories." "Are they stories?" "All allegations are stories until evidence matures." "That sounds rehearsed." "It should. I have been accused for 23 years. "Of what?" "You have the file." "I'm asking what you believe you have been accused of." He leaned back. "Power." Camille's pen moved. "Not crime?" "Crime is what men without power are accused of. Men with power are accused of instability, corruption, threat. Crime is only the language used to justify removal." Han scoffed quietly. Tae-jun did not look at him. Camille did. "Special Prosecutor, unless you are joining the interview as a subject, I need silence." Rachel looked down at her folder to hide her expression. Han flushed. "Of course." Camille returned to Tae-jun. "Do you consider yourself powerful?" "Yes." "Dangerous?" "Yes." "Criminal?" "No." That was fast. "I know what I am." "Most people don't." "I am not most people." "There it is." "What?" "The narcissism they promised me." Tae-jun's mouth remained still, but his eyes changed. "And did it satisfy you?" "Not yet." He nodded once. "Good." Camille studied him for several seconds. Men who needed dominance disliked being examined. Men who possessed it did not rush to prove it. Tae-jun did not fill silence. He used it as furniture. She turned a page. "Your father was murdered when you were 17. Han's head lifted. Tae-jun did not move. Camille continued. "Your mother died 11 months later. Officially suicide." No response. "You inherited debt, hostile business interests, and several enemies your father believed were allies." Still nothing. "At 22, you took control of Kwon Logistics from your uncle. At 26, your uncle disappeared." Tae-jun's voice was calm. "He went to Macau. He never returned." "Many men who go to Macau do not return as the same men." "Is that an answer?" "It is an observation." "Did you have him killed?" Rachel's breath caught. Han went very still. Jin-woo's gaze hardened from the door. Tae-jun looked at Camille for a long moment. Rain traced the window behind him. The city lights flickered over the angles of his face. "No," he said. Camille watched his hands, throat, eyelids. "Did you want him dead?" "Yes." "Why?" "He betrayed my father." "How?" "He sold our port routes to men who used them for women." Camille's pen paused. Trafficking? Tae-jun's eyes cooled. Yes. That isn't in the file. No. Han spoke before Camille could stop him. Because it was never proven. Camille turned to him slowly. He pressed his lips together. She looked back at Tae-jun. Did you report it? I was 17. That is not an answer. Yes, I reported it. To whom? Police. Prosecutors. A church elder who knew my mother. A judge my father once helped. What happened? The women disappeared. The files disappeared. My father died. Camille wrote nothing for a moment. Tae-jun's voice remained controlled, but something beneath it had tightened. Not anger exactly. Old pressure, an injury with scar tissue over it. Camille asked, Is that when you stopped trusting law? No. When? When I understood law had trusted power first. The office was silent except for the rain. Camille leaned back. You realize that answer will not help you. I did not invite you here to be helped. No, you invited me here to be observed while I observed you. That almost smile returned. You noticed. I notice for a living. So do I. There it was again, that quiet collision of minds. Camille turned to a fresh page. What do you want from this evaluation? Truth. People say that when they want control. I already have control. Do you? His eyes held hers. More than they expected. Less than they fear. Camille let silence stretch. Then she said, Do you believe you are above the law? No. Do you obey it? Which law? The criminal code. When it is just. And when it isn't? I obey something older. Morality? Consequence. She studied him. That sounds like vigilantism. No. Vigilantes need righteousness. I have never suffered from that illness. What do you suffer from? For the first time, Tae-jun looked away. It lasted less than a second. Camille saw it anyway. He said, Memory. The words settled in the room like smoke. Han checked his watch, a performance of impatience. Camille ignored him. She asked, Do you feel remorse? Tae-jun's gaze returned to her. Often. For what? For what I failed to prevent. Not for what you did? That depends on what you believe I did. I'm asking what you believe. Tae-jun leaned forward slightly. The shift was small, but the room seemed to adjust around him. Dr. Vance, men like Prosecutor Han want you to believe remorse is a confession. It is not. Remorse is simply the mind returning to a door that has already closed. Camille's pen moved again. That is elegant. It is also true. Those aren't the same thing. No, he said. They rarely are. The first session lasted 94 minutes. Camille asked about childhood, school discipline records, early violence exposure, attachment history, occupational functioning, known associates, decision-making patterns, conflict resolution, and emotional triggers. Tae-jun answered selectively, but not evasively. He refused details that implicated others. He corrected dates twice. He challenged the language of 3 questions. He never raised his voice. He never insulted her. He never tried to charm her. That troubled her more than charm would have. Charm was common in men who needed to be liked. Tae-jun did not appear to need anything. At the end, Camille turned off the recorder. Han stepped forward immediately. Dr. Vance, we should debrief. In the car. Tae-jun rose when Camille did. Old world manners or tactical courtesy. Perhaps both. She gathered her notes. He said, You have questions you did not ask. Camille fastened her briefcase. Several. Why not? Because you're not ready to answer them. Jin Woo's eyes flicked to his employer. Tae-jun regarded her steadily. And you are certain you will know when I am? No. Then how will you proceed? Camille slipped into her coat. Carefully. This time he did smile. Barely. It changed nothing in his face except the temperature of the room. Good night, Dr. Vance. She paused at the elevator. Chairman Kwon? Yes? You said they brought someone who could turn a man into a diagnosis. I did. That isn't what I do. What do you do? Camille held his gaze. I find the places where the story breaks. The smile faded, but his eyes remained alive. Then Seoul will keep you busy. The elevator doors closed before Camille could answer. Downstairs, rain still covered the city. In the sedan, Han erupted before the doors fully shut. You gave him too much control. Camille looked at him. No, he already had control. I simply did not pretend otherwise. He manipulated the entire interview. Of course he did. Rachel turned from the front passenger seat. But? Camille looked out at the city sliding past. But not the way your files said he would? Han's tone hardened. He is a sophisticated offender. Sophisticated offenders adapt. Yes. So you agree? I agree he is sophisticated. And an offender? Camille watched a woman in a red coat hurry across the street beneath a clear umbrella. That remains to be established. Han laughed once, sharp and humorless. You cannot be serious. I rarely joke after midnight with government officials. Rachel said quietly. What did you see? Camille opened her notebook but did not show them the page. Discipline, high impulse control, strategic cognition, controlled affect, strong threat assessment, complex moral framework, trauma markers, but not disorganization, attachment capacity, though heavily compartmentalized. Han seized on it. Antisocial traits. Possibly? Possibly? High-functioning antisocial presentation requires more than power, secrecy, and comfort with violence. It requires pervasive disregard, deceit for pleasure or gain, failure of remorse, impulsivity or irritability, irresponsibility, and violation without internal conflict. Han stared at her. She continued. He has disregard for certain systems. That is not the same as lack of internal rules. He shows deception, but so do governments, prosecutors, spouses, teenagers, and anyone who has ever answered fine when asked how they are. He is not impulsive, he is not irresponsible, and remorse is present, though not necessarily for acts you want him to confess to. Rachel said, So what is he? Camille closed the notebook. Dangerous. Han exhaled as if vindicated. Camille looked at him. But your file is lazy. The vindication died. Lazy? Yes. This investigation has consumed 6 years. Then you have had 6 years to make it better, Rachel whispered. Damn. Han's face flushed dark. Dr. Vance, I advise you to remember who asked you here. Camille turned toward him fully. The light from passing cars moved over her face in white stripes. And I advise you to remember why. If you wanted obedience, you should have hired someone with less experience and more debt. No one spoke for the rest of the drive. Camille's hotel suite overlooked the river from the 31st floor. By the time she entered, it was nearly 2 a.m. The room was quiet, tasteful, and impersonal. Cream walls, low lighting, a writing desk facing the window, a king bed with white linens untouched by history. She locked the door, checked the adjoining room, the bathroom, the closet, and the balcony latch. Old habit. Necessary habit. Only then did she remove her coat. She placed Tae-jun's file on the desk, opened her notebook, and began organizing her impressions. Subject does not match provided behavioral summary. She underlined it twice. Then she wrote, Official narrative emphasizes sadism, impulsive violence, dominance needs, and affective shallowness. Interview presentation suggests controlled aggression, high cognitive empathy, selective emotional access, trauma-organized worldview, rigid personal code. Must verify collateral. She paused. Outside, Seoul moved like a living circuit board beneath the rain. Camille removed her pearl earrings and set them beside the recorder. Her reflection watched her from the dark window, composed face, tired eyes, mouth set in a line she recognized from too many nights after testimony. She had told Rachel and Han the truth. Mostly. She had not told them that Tae-jun had recognized her exhaustion because it looked too much like his own. She had not told them that when he spoke of memory, she had felt the word land in her chest. And she had not told them the most troubling thing of all. She wanted a second interview, not because the task force needed one, because she did. Her hotel phone rang at 2:17 a.m. Camille stared at it. One ring, two, three. She picked up. "Dr. Vance." Silence. Then a man's voice, low and distorted through a filter. "Go home." Camille's fingers tightened around the receiver. "Who is this?" "You are not safe in Seoul." "I asked who this is." "You ask too many questions." "That is my profession." The voice changed, the filter crackling. "Your profession will get you buried far from Los Angeles." The line went dead. Camille stood very still. Then she hung up, walked to her briefcase, and removed a small second phone Rachel had insisted she take for emergency contact. She dialed the number. Rachel answered on the second ring, voice thick with sleep and alarm. "Kim?" "It's Vance." Rachel was awake instantly. "What happened?" "I just received a threat." Rachel cursed under her breath. "Are you secure?" "For the moment." "Do not open your door. I'm sending protective detail." "No." "What?" "Send one person I can identify. Not a team." "Dr. Vance, if your task force has a leak, a team only gives the leak more options." Silence. Then Rachel said, "You think it's internal?" "I think someone knew which hotel phone to call within 2 hours of my meeting Kwon Tae-jun." Rachel's breathing changed. Camille looked toward the window, at the blurred reflection of her own face. "And I think tomorrow's debrief should be interesting." The second meeting did not happen in Tae-jun's tower. That was the first warning. Jin-woo met Camille in the lobby alone and told her the chairman had requested a quieter location. No Han. No conference table. No glass office above the river. Camille should have refused. Instead, 30 minutes later, she stepped into an old tea house hidden inside a narrow Bukchon lane, where rain darkened the Hanok walls and turned the stone path silver. The place smelled of roasted barley, wet pine, and old wood. There were no visible guards, which meant Tae-jun had hidden them well. He sat in a private room overlooking a courtyard where rain trembled in a stone basin. Dark gray suit. Black overcoat folded beside him. Hair slightly damp, as if he had walked through the weather rather than been protected from it. He rose when she entered. "Dr. Vance?" "Chairman Kwon." "You came. You arranged it so my curiosity would be offended if I didn't." "That was my hope." She sat across from him, but she did not touch the tea. "This is irregular," she said. "Yes." "Potentially compromising." "Yes." "Manipulative." "Only if you feel manipulated." Camille's eyes narrowed. "Cute." His brow lifted. "I have not been called that in some time." "I wouldn't enjoy it too much." For one brief second, the tension softened. Then Tae-jun said, "You received a threat." Camille's hand stilled near her recorder. "Rachel told you?" "No." "Then your people are watching my hotel." "Yes." The honesty was a slap without a raised hand. "That is illegal," she said. "So was threatening you." "One does not excuse the other." "No," Tae-jun said. "But it explains why I learned before your task force did." Camille sat back slowly. "You changed the location because you think my task force is compromised." "I know it is." The rain tapped the courtyard stones between them. That was when the interview stopped being an interview. Camille told him what she had found. Witness statements that sounded translated from someone else's legal theory, violent incidents that did not match his travel records, behavioral language planted like evidence. Someone had built a psychological cage and invited her to lock it. Tae-jun listened without interrupting. When she finished, he reached for his tea. "Assemblyman Park Dae-hyun," he said. The name changed the room. Reform politician. Anti-corruption darling. Public enemy of organized crime. Private beneficiary of port contracts, shell charities, hidden routes, and judges who looked away at the right time. Camille studied him. "You have evidence." "Yes." "Why not release it?" "Because evidence without timing is noise." "That sounds convenient." His jaw shifted once. "It is inconvenient. People die while timing matures. There it was again. Not cruelty, not innocence either. Something worse for a profiler. Contradiction. You want me to believe you're holding back for strategic reasons. No, he said. I want you to understand that if Park moves first, he will not only destroy me, he will use your name to do it. Camille went still. My name? A forged assessment. Your credentials. Your conclusion. Written before you ever arrived. The old courtroom part of Camille went cold. Tae-jun leaned forward slightly. That is why they brought you here. Not to read me, to lend your face to a lie. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Camille picked up her pen. Tae-jun's eyes dropped to the movement. You are marking affect. I'm marking grief response. Do not romanticize me, Dr. Vance. Her gaze snapped up. I do not romanticize dangerous men. I evaluate them. And do not flatter yourself into thinking you are the first controlled, wounded, morally complicated man to mistake being understood for being absolved. The room changed. His eyes held hers, dark and unreadable. Then he said softly, There you are. Camille's fingers stilled. The woman under the expert witness, he said. You don't know me. No, but everyone keeps telling me what you are. I prefer evidence. She should have been offended. She was. She also respected the precision. When she left the tea house, the rain had softened to mist. Tae-jun walked her to the car without an umbrella, his overcoat darkening at the shoulders. You should know I'll verify everything, Camille said. I would be disappointed if you didn't. And if I find you lied? Then your profile changes. She opened the car door, then paused. For the first time, he looked less like a crime lord and more like a man exhausted from being described by people who needed him dead. No, he said quietly. I am not confident, Dr. Vance. I am tired. The sentence followed her into the car. As Seoul blurred past the window, Camille looked at her reflection and understood the problem. She had not cleared him. She had not trusted him. But she had seen him. And in her profession, seeing a man clearly was often the first dangerous mistake.